That's the beauty of being in the same community. We get it. We've all been there.
They have been through it. And that's a very powerful relationship and connection to make with someone.
There's a difference when you can talk to somebody who gets it, who has had the same fears, who essentially walked in your shoes. Go sign up. And if you don't need a mentor, then go be a mentor.
I never want anyone to feel alone or like they can't handle the situation.
Reach out, connect. We'd love to talk to you. This is the 1% Heart, a podcast about the millions of people living with congenital heart defects. In this episode, we're going to discuss the importance of community and mentorship amongst CHD patients. Today's guests are Jennie Fox and Rick Puder, congenital heart patients and peer mentors in the Adult Congenital Heart Association's peer mentorship program. Before I give them the chance to introduce themselves, here's my quick disclaimer. Nothing said here constitutes medical advice. These are our own opinions, experiences, and stories. I also like to include a trigger warning as we are going to discuss medical-related problems and traumas. Listener discretion is always advised. With that out of the way, Jennie, Rick, I know you guys are both incredibly busy, so thank you for taking the time to join me here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting us. Now, before we dive into the Peer Mentor program, you both please take a moment to introduce yourselves. So we'll start with Jennie, but just aside from the Peer Mentor program, can you tell us about yourself, your journey, and your path to advocacy and help?
Yeah, thank you again for having me, Justin. I'm really excited to be here. Well, first of all, hi everyone. I'm Jennie. I live in Cincinnati. I am a patient and a peer mentor with ACHA. But my journey to getting here honestly just took me becoming more of an active patient and getting involved with my own healthcare and wanting to be a more personal advocate for myself. And that led me to getting really excited about teaching others and helping them feel comfortable advocating for themselves. So it's kind of been a long-winded journey. Obviously, we were all born with this. So it's taken a while, but I'm really excited where I am and how I've been able to help people.
Right. Thank you, Dresden. My name is Rick Puder, and I am, like Jennie, I'm a senior ambassador at the Adult Congenital Heart Association. I'm a CHD patient myself. I'm recently retired. I was born with a coarctation of the aorta and a very severe form of it. I had heart failure at 10 days old, had my first surgery at 4 years old, my second surgery at 13 years old. And after years of things seemed pretty calm, no real changes, I stayed with my follow-up my entire life. And when I was in my 40s, my adult congenital cardiologist found that I had an aneurysm at the site of my last repair. So I was terrified, to say the least. And that's how I found ACHA. I was looking for resources available. I contacted them, and they helped me through some very challenging times. I said, hey, I need to be part of this organization. So from that point, that was about 19 years ago. So from that point on, I've been very active with ACHA in volunteering and advocacy. And I was among the first group of peer mentors that got signed up when they launched the peer mentor program.
Fantastic. Now before I move on to the next question, I've got about 6 things I want to follow up with both of you. Jennie, I'm just going to let this sit in the air. It's good that you mentioned self-advocacy. On the episode where I spoke to the founders of Heart Charged, they also mentioned the importance of self-advocacy, especially for female patients. Now, you are nodding emphatically. Can you just tell us what your experience has been, if you don't mind sharing something that personal, and how you advocate for yourself in an industry that might not listen to women like they need to, especially young women?
Honestly, it's a really good point. For me personally, it's definitely been like listening to your own body and knowing when something isn't right. And even when you may have doctors telling you everything is completely fine, when you know it's not, it's essentially sticking to your guns and knowing I've got to get some help here and I have to find someone who's going to listen to me. So a lot of it was very much trying to find a professional who would actually listen to my concerns. And once I did, that gave me the confidence to do that even more and know that I was essentially doing what I needed to do best for my own healthcare. So it's definitely it can be a struggle sometimes, depending on what kind of doctor you're dealing with, whether or not they're really going to take your concern seriously. But once you find one that does, it's absolutely worth all the effort.
So persistence is key, and a willingness to switch providers as needed.
Absolutely, yes.
And has your experience been about the same as UH, or like did they? How do I ask? So my last guests were younger, and they talked about as they got older, they gained a little bit more experience, a little bit more respect, I should say. Not much, but some. Have you noticed any change in how they treat you from youth to now?
I think so.
Not to
A
say
lot
that
of
you're not young. I'm trying to ask this
no,
question the right way. From pediatric care to adult care.
yeah, I think a lot of that just comes with personal education and confidence. As I learned more about my own conditions, because a lot of it I only knew as a kid that I had a heart condition. I didn't truly know what my defects were until I was like in college. And so as I learned more and took the initiative to really educate myself, then I was able to have those conversations with my doctors, and they saw me as a patient who's willing to be involved in the process, and that helps them take me more seriously and my concerns more seriously. So I think a lot of it comes with just education, both of yourself and other medical professionals, and just a willingness to, like you said, look for second opinions if you need to, and a willingness to just keep pushing, essentially.
Learn what you can, advocate, and be persistent. Which,
That's
even if you feel like you're being annoying, just remember it is your health. No one else is going to look out for you like you do, and I think that goes across genders. But from what I've been hearing, I've not had this experience, but the female experience is harder in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it certainly can be. But I think, again, kind of like you said, times are changing a little bit. Doctors are, I think, trying to take patients a little bit more seriously and actually listen, and be an active listener as a provider, which is really helpful. And that goes a long way. So I think it's just a process and sticking with it.
Awesome. Now, Rick, the most shocking part of your story for me wasn't the heart failure so close to birth or how long it took for your first surgery. The most shocking part for me is that you are in retirement age.
Yes.
So that I would have been far off on that. But you said you hadn't found the Adult Congenital Heart Association until your 40s. Does that mean you didn't have any CHD community before that? Or was it just a different kind of community?
That's a great question, Dresden. So I always got care. When I left pediatric care, when I graduated from college, I stayed with a cardiologist, but it was an acquired heart disease cardiologist. So it was a different world there. So it's funny. I'm in my 20s and I'm in a waiting room with probably the mean age was 78. And I'm sitting in there and nobody knew what the heck I was doing there. Somebody said, "You're kind of young to have a heart problem, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, no, I've had it for a long time since I was born." So that was kind of the community I was in at the time. But to your point, though, and I see this to be fairly common as I meet so many other people with CHDs, is I never met anybody else that I know of with a CHD till I was in my 40s. And so one of the most exciting things about being part of ACHA is to meet others in the communities, people who have what I have, who understand what I have and really get it. So, and that's, and probably people you've spoken to, they said the same thing. One of the most exciting things is when you finally in your life, and it's usually well into adulthood, we meet that one other person who has what you have, and then all of a sudden you connect. And I've learned when I first connected with others with CHD and I found this community, we're sharing our stories, and even though the details might be different, is as if we all lived parallel lives. We shared so many experiences, and you just can't stop talking and sharing, because it really is, to your the words you use, I think, Dresden's very powerful. It really is a community.
I also had the experience of going to acquired heart disease doctors and sitting in those waiting rooms. So that part resonates. Something you said there that I want to point out. You never met anyone else with a CHD that you know of. And that's something that, I mean, I had not met anyone either that I know of. And that's the part where, I mean, we're all carrying an invisible condition. So we might have, it's not something you talk about regularly. I mean, the only way people ever knew I had something was because I got that scar down my chest. And so if I went swimming or something. But it does lead me to think, how many people have I met that had a similar condition, but because I didn't know there was a community of congenital heart defects, because I thought I was special, we never discussed it. I never knew that they had something like I had. I never knew that they were on a similar journey.
Yeah, Dres, you make a good point. I've thought about this often. I even in a talk I gave a while back, I said, with 1 out of 100 of us having a congenital heart disease, there are a lot of people out there. So I think about how lonely I was not knowing anybody else, but it's very possible that the person sitting next to me on my school bus, she had it too. And she was lonely because she didn't know anybody else who had it. But 1 out of 100, you think about how many people are in our schools, how many other people probably did have it, but we just didn't know it. They didn't know it either.
Yep. A lot of people really do have a 1% heart. See what I did there? All right. Jenny rolled her eyes. I feel like I won something there. Now, the not knowing ties really great into what I wanted to say next, which is, Rick, you've been a peer mentor since 2012 with the Adult Congenital Heart Association, ACHA. Can you explain what the peer mentorship program is, how you became involved when it was founded, and how it's evolved over the years?
Yeah, I'm glad to do that, Dresden, and thank you for asking that. So first of all, I want to say being a peer mentor has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. I felt that way when I first became a peer mentor years ago, about a dozen years ago, and I feel that way just as strongly today. It truly is rewarding. And so what the mentor program is, it's an incredible program that connects patients and family members with trained peer mentors. So if somebody wants to have some support, they will reach out to ACHA. They will do an application and meet with our peer mentor coordinator. And what she will do is she will match the mentor with the potential mentee to make sure we're the best possible match. So she looks at a number of things. What she'll look at are things like the diagnosis. Do we have similar CHDs? Or do we have similar surgeries or procedures we went through? Gender may play a role in it. Geographic location may play a role in it. But she looks at all these things, works with that individual who wants to support, and makes that connection so we got the best possible match. And the person, and this goes back to what you're talking about, Dresden, when people are looking for support, it's oftentimes because they're going through that challenging time in their lives. They're having to have, they just found out they have to have surgery, or they thought things were fine like I did. They thought things were fine for a long time. I'm going to my appointments. No big deal. Everything's great. It was more of a formality to go to my appointments. And all of a sudden, something about our CHD comes back to the surface. I've become very symptomatic. And then all of a sudden, what was sort of in the back of my mind, all of a sudden comes to the surface. And there's a lot of anxiety involved with that. So they'll want to reach out to somebody. And so what we do as peer mentors, we provide support. Okay, we're that ear. We listen. We share these experiences so we can kind of help them navigate this process because we walked in their shoes. And so to have that connection is very powerful. And we also help direct them to resources that ACHA has to help them through this. So one of the big things that I find out, and when I've worked with my matches over the years, is that they ask, where do I get my care? Because we, of course, at ACHA, we strongly recommend they go to adult congenital cardiologists. Where do I get to my care? What do I need to do next? So I oftentimes will show them how to use ACHA's online clinic directory, how to use it, so they can find the program that best works for them. So that's really how it works. Your question is how did it evolve, or how's it changed over the years? And I think evolution is a really very important word. So let me start out with what hasn't changed in the years since I've been a mentor. There's really two big things. One is to become a mentor, it's still a very rigorous selection process. We fill out an application. I had to submit letters of reference. You go through an interview process before you're selected. So that's in place. The other thing that's very important, and it really does set ACHA's program apart, is that training and education is extremely important for our mentors. When we come on board, we get a new group of mentors. We go through a very robust training process to really make sure we have the skills we need to be good mentors. But it doesn't stop there. What we do is we have ongoing, scheduled, regular training throughout the year. And we continue to do that for as long as we're mentors. So that stayed there. So what has changed since I became a mentor? Well, probably the biggest thing that I see is that we have more mentors now. When I started, we had fewer mentors. Today, we have over 50. And why is that important? Well, it's important because when you have more mentors, we have a wider variety of CHDs represented. So we can help more people. So if you want to connect with, because you have a similar diagnosis, we have so many more people with such a wider variety of CHDs and experiences, we can help more people, okay? And also it means that we have more family members who are mentors, because sometimes it's a family member. Remember, CHD it impacts the entire family. So sometimes it's a family member says they need to have support. So now that we have more mentors, we have more family members. So,
and that's not just caregivers, that's siblings too, right?
What's that? Siblings, parents, absolutely. Yeah. We even have somebody who's a girlfriend of somebody who had CHD, and she's a fantastic mentor. She's been able to help a lot of people.
Awesome. Something else that stood out to me there. Bear with me.
Sure.
So not only is it for patients and families, but the training aspect.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like this is more than mentorship. This is almost a mix between a guidance counselor, a support group, and a mentor. Mentor telling you how to do what you need to do, guidance counselor telling you where to find the resources and what to look for, and support circle telling you, hey, you've got this. I went through it. I did it. You can do it too.
Yeah.
Seems like a big combination of those.
It really is. Probably the one thing we don't do, of course, we don't give medical advice. But by able to provide that support and be able to help them navigate, and because we've walked in their shoes and kind of help point them in directions to help them explore the right options that work for them. You're right. It is a combination of roles that we play when we work with people we're matched with.
Must get pretty hard not to just squeeze in some medical advice, right?
We get asked that, do this. And you know what? It's one of the things we stress, very important, when we do the training, and even during that interview process, when we talk about selecting it, how important it is. So that's ingrained in us from the very first moment we are even considering being mentors.
It's a good thing to be ingrained with you. I get that. Now, Jennie, you've been on both sides of the mentorship program.
Yeah.
Can you give us some, how you found it, what it was like being a mentee, and what it's like being a mentor, and how you're using your experience in the former to guide you in the latter?
Absolutely. It's a great question, Dresden. So there's something Rick said that definitely reminded me of how I essentially found ACHA. I was an adult, I think it was in my late 20s, and I found out I was going to need a defibrillator implant. And for surgery, since I was like 12 years old, so obviously I was in a little bit of panic mode. And so I went to the internet, found ACHA, and then I found that they had a peer mentor program. So I asked to be matched with someone, and that experience really changed my life, honestly, because my mentor essentially gave me a game plan and knew exactly what to expect. I mean, even though we maybe have the same surgery, it's going to be a little different, but she really helped to ease my fears and help me feel very comfortable with the situation and know that I could handle it. And also gave me like really good questions and suggestions I could talk with my care team about. So that way I was completely prepared for it. So that was such a wonderful experience. I mean, no one loves surgery, but feeling a little more prepared for it was so helpful. I'll say that. And so shoot to like maybe a few years later, I went to the national conference, the ACHA national conference in Chicago, and there was a seminar on peer mentor program. and they were actually looking for peer mentors, and they happened to need someone with my particular defect. And I decided to apply for it. I talked to my husband. He was there with me. He's like, maybe you should think about applying for it. You really loved your experience. I was like, honestly, yes, because I never want anyone to feel alone or unprepared or afraid for the surgery like I was. And so my experience now as a peer mentor is I can also help guide someone, help them through the situation. We have so many resources on the website, like our surgery handbook. Like there's so many ways that I can help prepare somebody. And that's been super gratifying because I never want anyone to feel alone or like they can't handle the situation. So that's, being on one side of it and then knowing on the other side how to essentially address the same situation that I was going through has been really helpful. And it's helped guide how I've been able to do as a peer mentor.
That was beautiful. Thank you for
Thank you.
giving us that. Yeah. Before I go back to my laundry list of questions, question for the group, if either of you can jump in here. Without disclosing personal information, can you give me a high level best story, best experience, some feel good memory from the peer mentorship program? And Jennie, it can be on either side, but just something specific if possible.
I will say, one of my matches I had several years ago, it was someone who actually we had the exact same condition. We were like 10 years apart, but she was just like, it was so wonderful to hear her joy in talking with someone else who had the same condition. So I know, very similar to Rick, I did not meet another CHD patient until I was late 20s, almost 30. And so, knowing I could help this younger person feel less alone. And honestly, since then, we've actually become really good friends and we still stay in touch to say, like, we do video phone calls once a week to kind of just check in. And so, like, that kind of experience, has been so wonderful in just helping her know that she can advocate for herself. Because I know now she goes to her doctor's appointments and is not afraid to ask questions. Whereas before we first started our match, she was very tentative, very like nervous, didn't want to like step on anyone's toes. And I'm like, you're not stepping on toes. You're asking for help with your own healthcare. And that's so important. And I think her doctors respect her a lot more now because she's being an active patient. And so that match forever will stick with me, not just as a friend, but how that went and how I was able to really help someone. So I look at every match now and kind of work with that one in my mind.
So here's the questions to ask, and here's the empowerment to do so.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I fucking love that. Rick, that is a high bar. Can you top it?
I don't know if I could top it, but you know what? First of all, let me just say what Jennie said is so important. Is one of the biggest things I think we do, or I've done as mentors, and sound like Jennie too, is it helping empower people to take control of their own healthcare. It is their life to ask the questions and be involved and so forth, and not be that timid person and be involved. And what they've learned, they're afraid to do it because they're afraid they might upset their doctor. But after they start doing, they go, the doctor kind of liked that I asked these questions, that I was engaged, that it was important. And so we had that. But I guess it's hard to pick one, but I did have one several years ago, just like with Jennie. She had a similar CHD, same diagnosis that I had. She hadn't had care in a long time. Her blood pressure was just spiking. They couldn't get her blood pressure down. She's going to her primary care doctor, finally went to an acquired heart disease cardiologist. They couldn't do anything. And she was at wit's end. She started doing the research and she found ACHA. She said, hey, let me see if I could talk to somebody. So I had that conversation with her. So I was explaining to her about the importance of getting the right kind of care and what an adult congenital cardiologist was. And she wasn't aware what that had even existed. So I explained what they did. She got pretty excited about it, that there's actually a whole community out there to support us. And so I said, get on your computer. Let me walk you through the clinic directory to see if we could find somebody that would work for you. And she found one that was just 10 miles from her house. She goes, man, I could be there in 10 minutes. She was like excited. So she calls them. She sets up her appointment. She goes in for her appointment. And so we had a follow-up call after that. We had that next call and she was just excited. They knew what I had. They understood it. And now we have a plan what we're going to do. And so she was just elated that she was able to get into a community, or the care community, if you will, to be able to get just the right people. Knew what she had, they knew what to do, they put her on a path to that, to success. And she was also then she said, well, when I go back to my appointment, I wonder what they're going to do about this. How do I do this? Should I tell them about that? I go, this is what you do. I said, you write down all your questions in advance. And I said, what I do is I keep a notepad or use your phone, whatever you want to do, next to your bed. And my best ideas come in the middle of the night. Just jot down your questions and go in there, because I said, they're going to appreciate that and you're going to appreciate that. And I said, do you have anybody to go with you? She says, my mother would love to come with me. I said, have her go with you too, because when you're going to be in there, you're going to be nervous, and you might forget some of the things that he says, or when you meet. So she brought her mother with her. She had her notes, and she just felt fantastic. And as we move on over the next couple of months, her blood pressure was starting to come back down. So they had a whole plan of action, what to do going forward.
So both of you guys have made a direct, positive, and long-lasting impact on people's lives. That's fantastic. But we've touched on this, we've talked around it. Why is peer mentorship so important? Why is this something we should seek out? Why, when I found the community in my early 20s, in a very roundabout way, I found the ACHA by going and talking to Stuart Lang in Scotland on his podcast, and he's the one that told me about it before the episode. So I also understand finding it as an adult and not knowing the community before, not talking to CHD patients before. Mm. And that peer group made me feel so important, so good. It made me feel good to find people with the same crap. Why did it make me happy? Why is this so important to all of us?
I'll say, Justin, to your point of, and they made you feel good, I think it's because they made you feel seen. It's to feel seen and to know that that person that you're talking to understands what you're saying, not just, they can, sympathize and they're, a doctor or anything. They have been through it. And that's a very powerful relationship and connection to make with someone. So I think that's why it's so important. I know for me, again, that sense of community, that sense of connection, and just knowing that these people in this community all get what we're going through. And they don't feel alone. I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of us just want to feel connected to people. So for me, that's why it's so important.
Yeah. And Dresden, I think that's a really great question to ask. And so why is it so important? Well, a lot of us have support systems at home, right? We have our spouse, we have parents, siblings, friends that are there to support us. And we have that, which is extremely important. But there's a difference when you can talk to somebody who gets it, who has had the surgeries, who has had those caths, who has had the same fears, who essentially walked in your shoes. There's that level of connection that, as much as anybody else cares and loves you and wants to be part of it, that they can't get to that point. So to have that person out there who really gets you and your fears, not just to sympathize, but to really empathize that you went through that, is incredibly powerful and very, very healing when you're able to do that. So, as I tell people, I said, it complements that support system you have. Okay. And so oftentimes when I've had matches, I've had a family member get on the phone with us and want to understand more themselves so they can help even more. And so, and be able to talk to them and answer their questions, and combine what, meeting somebody else who has that same experience and that shared life with the personal support they have. It's an incredible combination.
It complements the existing support system.
Absolutely does.
And I'd even take it a step further, where I know in my case, my existing support system was my family and a few close friends. But if anyone else asked about it, I'd lie and I'd hide my conditions, because I got really sick of pity. A story I told in another episode was I worked out like a maniac growing up. I wanted to be better, stronger, faster than my friends. And by and large, I was for most. And I remember one time talking to a friend in college about weightlifting, and I was complaining about how my bench press max would always be terrible because my chest is a bit concave from the open heart. And this is someone who I had done martial arts with, someone who's worked out with me, and someone whose ass I regularly kicked. And I remember the immediate change as soon as they found out about the heart problem. Oh, are you sure you can do this? Are you sure you can do that? And it damaged the relationship. A large part of it was my aversion to that kind of pity, that kind of, are you sure you're okay? But then if I speak to someone my age who is a patient, I don't have that same negative feeling when they ask me those questions, because they don't ask me in the same almost condescending way, it feels. And a big part of that might be the fact that this is still seen as a pediatric disease. And a lot of us are, treated like kids until we're, far too old. Well, we're just going to let that sit in the air. That was pretty much a Debbie Downer. Let's spin this back around.
No, it wasn't a Debbie Downer. I would say it was a good point. I mean, it's hard to talk about. So I get exactly where you're coming from, because you want to find people essentially on the same level as you that like get it, and they're not going to like make you feel bad for if you can't do something or whatever, like, because they get it too. So don't feel bad. That's not a Debbie Downer. That's just life. That's just how it is,
It is. But it applies to work too. I was thinking while you were talking, Dresden, because that's the beauty of being in the same community. We get it. We've all been there. So it's been with friends, it's been with family members, but even at work, going through my career, my professional career, and it's like I didn't want my employer to know, because I don't want them to treat me differently. I don't want to think, well, you can't travel so much because I know you have that, or you can't do that because I can do anything. I can do it. Everybody else does, and hopefully a lot better. But I didn't want them to have that mindset in their mind, trying to be helpful, and I mean, they're not doing it out of spite. They're trying to be helpful to. So I would just not tell anybody and just achieve as much as anybody else did, where they may not have given me the chance, or at least I don't think they would have given me the chance. If I told them heart conditions, surgeries, and so forth, they might have treated me differently.
No, I'm with you on that. When I was working at a very large bank, I hid it because I knew how much internal politics mattered, and I knew how much subconscious opinions mattered. And I refused to be that guy, because no matter how hard you work, if you start leaving for doctor's appointments, that's all they're going to remember. That's all that's going to stand out to them.
Yeah, very true.
And then I moved to a very small office with a bunch of like 6, 7 very smart people. Completely different experience. I don't think any of them have ever thought less of me for it. I think I mentioned going to the cardiologist once, and so one of them was just like, "Yeah, just don't die, you'll be good." Just not that they don't care. I mean, every time the Walk for 100 comes around, they cut big checks and show up, but they never thought different of me for it, and I never gave the bigger companies a chance, because, and it kind of ties back to that friend in college. People who are not as thoughtful, empathetic, see it as a weakness and lean on it. That's all they see.
Sometimes it's out of thoughtfulness too, Dresden. It's like, I said, sometimes it's not out of being not thoughtful. They actually think they're helpful by not giving you as much. But I was going to exceed. I mean, I made it. I was an executive. I made it there, and so I did out of their trying to help me not overexert myself. It may have been limiting, so I didn't want to give them that opportunity. So
it's infantilization. I think that's how to pronounce that. You don't get the opportunity when they don't think you can hack it, when it should be your choice. I should tell you what I can and can't do. You don't get to tell me what I can and can't do. And that's really why, a big reason I started this podcast is you don't get to tell me how I'm supposed to see myself or what I can. I mean, the best way, if you ever really want to make me do something, tell me I can't, then see what happens, Now, we've covered a lot, but something I want to ask both of you, and as always, ladies first, what does CHD mean to you? And I don't mean the textbook definition, malformations, and the structure of the heart present at birth. What does, after the peer mentorship program, after joining this community, after making a difference in people's lives with the same condition, all the good, all the bad, what does CHD mean to you at this point?
It's a thinker, huh? For me, CHD, okay, this is going to sound like a little bit of a hot take. Should I say it? CHD, I think, is a superpower. You know, for me, like growing up, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just built differently or something. But like for
I'm
me,
built different.
I don't know. Like for me, I use it like I I learned to be way more empathetic of a person, I think, and just compassionate, kind, and understanding of people and our differences. And so like I think it's changed how I view the world. It's so interesting because I know my husband has asked me so many times, if you could have been born, there was a magic power to have been born without your CHD, would you do it? And I always say no, which I know not many people, I think, would say, but it's because it's made me who I am. You know, it's made me into the person who wants to listen to others and is caring and just wants to find connection with others and build that community. And I don't know, if I hadn't been through the experiences I've been through, if I would have that same mindset. So for me, it's felt like my superpower.
You're not the first person to say that to me.
Oh, okay.
It,
Okay.
it's amazing. I talked to my friend in Scotland, whose podcast, by the way, is Heart to Hearts. Check it out. He said he's happy to be. I mean, he just had a device implanted, and he's like, I can't use wired earphones anymore, but I'm happy to be a CHD patient. It's the community made me happy to be a CHD patient, and it ties back to what you were just saying about how it is almost like a superpower. I mean, I'm not saying this is healthy and this is probably what you shouldn't take away from it, but for me specifically, again, all the caveats, it made me, I can't take no for an answer. I always have to be doing something. I cannot slow down because I feel like I have a ticking time bomb in my chest, which is not the case. That is not what's going on, but it really did play a huge part in me growing up because I mean, I might not be the smartest, the fastest, the strongest, the most well-spoken in the room, but I'll tell you right now, no one's going to work any harder than I will. And I owe a lot of that to feeling like I had something to overcome at all times, feeling like I had something to prove. Probably not healthy, probably a little bit wrong from mental health, but it's the same kind of theme where it is a superpower because you're very aware of your mortality. You're very aware of your place in the world, and you're very aware of how lucky you are. I was at the Cardiac Neurodevelopmental Outcomes Collaborative Conference, scientific sessions, some fancy name that I keep screwing up. And they're mentioning how patients in active heart failure, waiting for transplants, when you ask them to rate their quality of life, I mean, they rate better than the average, the people with just generalized no conditions. Wow. And it's amazing because, we could be actively dying, but because we know how lucky we are to have been here at all, different experience. Rick, you've been doing this a long time, but you also found the community in your 40s. What does it mean to you now?
What the two of you are saying, it just kind of took the words right out of my mouth. Because who I am today is a lot of it because of having a CHD. Right? It doesn't define me, but it's made me who I am today. There's a couple of traits that people always tell me about. I mean, I don't say it, they come and tell me these things. And so having gone through all these things and going to surgeries and getting back up and going back to school and doing all these things, I think one thing is, I think I'm probably more resilient than I may have been. And a lot of people I know, my wife will even say, how do you do that? You get knocked down, you just brush yourself off and you just keep on going again. She's the most resilient person I know. Because we've had to be resilient, right? We had to get up. We couldn't just stop. So I just keep on going. I don't let things stop me. And the other thing that I've been told, and I feel it, is that I'm a very grateful person. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for all the researchers and the doctors and the nurses and the NPs who got us where we are today. that we're even surviving. I had somebody once tell me, he said, Rick, you must have the gratefulness gene because you're grateful for everything you have. Doesn't stop me from wanting to get more and grow and get better, but I'm always grateful for what I have. So those kind of things of having CHD, I think, is what has contributed to those two things, is to be resilient and grateful for what I have. And it's like, and it's, it goes to even just simple things, in our lives where, I know as I got into my 30s and 40s and 50s, people say, oh no, I'm 40 years old. Oh no, I'm 50 years old. And, I say, you know what? Every day, every birthday, I'm happy for it. I got another year. And so to be alive in this world and be able to live another day, I'm grateful for getting older, not sad about having another year added to it.
Yeah, it's an accomplishment. It's a trophy.
Yeah, it is.
Rick, that is so funny you say that because next year I'll be 40. I keep telling everyone I cannot wait. I'm so excited. Like people say that remember back in the day when I was younger, for my parents, we did like over the hill parties. I'm like, bring it on. I'm ready for it. Like I can't wait. I'm just excited to be here. So I definitely, I see your point for sure.
Yeah. My parents, it's funny, is when I was talking about being grateful and stuff and where we go. I knew when I was growing up that I was very fortunate to be alive, because back when I was born, is 50% of the children died before their first birthday. And so, I couldn't have my first surgery until I was 4 years old because I couldn't do surgery as an infant back when I was born. So I always knew I was very, very fortunate. And I remember telling my mom, I said, Mom, I think I must be here for a reason. I made it when a lot of other people didn't. I wonder, I must have a purpose for being here. And I don't know whether she believed it or I even believed it. Well, what I know is being able to be living another life and be able to advocate and do what we're doing today and being able to be a mentor and all this is just, maybe I am living out that purpose that I always talked about as a kid.
Beautifully said. And it's amazing to me how the three of us with three completely different backgrounds, resilience was a great word that you both used, I think, or define. But we really are the people that get knocked down and get back up again. How's that song go? Anyway, we are resilient to the point of almost absurdity because we have to be, and we're grateful. Jennie, you said you turned 40 next year. I turned 30 next year, and I'm definitely not as grateful as I should be. But the words you guys said have always been echoing in my head, where it's like, I am so damn lucky to be here. And I'm lucky to be able to start a podcast where I'm trying to make it so that, my experience was a little rocky, getting and maintaining care. I don't think it should have been. And now I can sit here and go, hey, listen to this. These are all these episodes where you don't have to, you don't have to deal with the crap we did. And here's how, here's why, here's your community, reach out, here's support. And that's going to tie directly to my next point. Let's say I'm a patient, a family member, a provider, a girlfriend, like you said, and I want to get involved on either side of the Peer Mentor program. You guys have motivated me. What do I do next? Do I go to the website? What should I be doing if I want to go be a peer mentor or mentee now? Or if I just want to learn about the community, learn some more.
I think the first point is you could look on our website, the ACHAHeart.org. There is a whole section all about the Peer Mentor program. So you can read all of our bios. You can read about us. You can read about the program if you are interested in potentially becoming a peer mentor. And then there's also, as Rick said earlier, there's an application if you are looking for support. So you fill that out, and then our coordinator gets to you and helps you connect with a peer mentor that will work best for you.
Awesome. Now, before I do our walk-off, anything else we want to squeeze in here? A peer mentor program, or just things you want to say to the community? You guys both have a wealth of experience that I do not have, and that's helping other patients one-on-one navigate their care experience. Anything you want to add? Floor is wide open.
I guess
Go first, Rick.
Yeah, I guess what I would say, and not like I thought this one through, but I guess what I would say is, there's a big community out there. The support is there. We have adult congenital cardiologists, we have ACHA, there's organizations, there's a tremendous amount of support out there. And there are a lot of us out there. There are now more adults with congenital heart disease than there are children. And so reach out, connect, we'd love to talk to you. And everybody else love to talk to you too, because we love sharing our stories. I just a real quick story. When I went during one of the ACHA training things we were in Philadelphia, and so they asked, they didn't have enough hotel rooms. So they asked if I would mind sharing a room with another mentor. And I said, sure. Yeah, no problem. So he's older than I am. And so we're sitting there, we're in the room, and we started sharing our stories. And it was like kids staying at a friend's house overnight. We did not sleep that night. We were telling stories. We were laughing. We were crying. It was just to connect with somebody. We just couldn't stop talking, sharing stories. Like I said, a lot of the details weren't the same, but the feelings, the experiences, all that were just powerful. So it's like two kids just couldn't get enough of sharing our experiences with each other. So reach out.
That's a great part to end on, unless Jennie has some.
I was just going to say, I want everyone to know that their story is valid. I think a lot of people are afraid that maybe they're not doing it the right way or whatever. Everyone is going to have a different journey. I think as long as you ask for help when you need it and seek that support, that's the important thing. So don't feel like you've done it wrong or anything. You're doing fine, and we're all different, and that's okay.
Yeah, that is spot freaking on. It took me forever to feel like I belonged in the community, because I knew I was lucky to be quote unquote normal, but I didn't feel like I had enough of, I didn't feel like I had enough of a problem to tell my story, to join the community. And I think that limited me for a long time. And I think that if I don't get out there and say, hey, I had surgeries, I had pretty intense surgeries, but I've been in good health since, knock on wood. I'm telling my story, you should too. Even if you haven't had surgeries, even if you had little issues, you need to speak up, because then the people after you will speak up. And it's better we have to deal with this than the next generation does. And I think that's the big part of the Peer Mentor program. It's better that we dealt with the crap than you guys have to. Because we can limit the experience of the, for lack of a better term, bullshit that we all live through.
Yeah.
Where Jennie's a really good example, where she was a mentee, becomes a mentor. I've got some of my mentees over the years that become mentors. So it's a way to pay it forward. It's a great experience.
After this, I might go sign up to be a mentor. But
you too, Dresden. Come on over.
I know we are way over time. I really want to appreciate you both for coming on, telling your story, being so open, honest, and vulnerable. And one last plug, ACHAHeart.org, whole section on the Peer Mentor program. If you're listening to this, go sign up. And if you don't need a mentor, then go be a mentor. And you could be a friend, a family member, a girlfriend, boyfriend. I don't care. If you don't need a mentor, go sign up to be a mentor. All right. That was Jennie Fox and Rick Puder, peer mentors, advocates, patients, and my friends. You can learn more about the organization and find the resources we spoke about at ACHAHeart.org. And remember, if you have any questions or comments on the episode, or you just want to talk some crap to me, you can reach out through our website, 1%heart.com. You can email support@1%heart.com. You can message us on Instagram at the CHD podcast. And you can also use all those avenues to sign up to be a guest on this podcast. Thank you all for listening. Talk to you soon.